If you've already been training in the gym for a few months to a year and you haven't put on as much muscle as you thought you would, or you're just starting out and you're confused on what you should be doing to build muscle, forget about choosing the most optimal exercise and forget about having the perfect workout split because it literally does not exist. You need to know the basic mechanical principles behind building muscle. Even if you choose an S-tier bicep exercise from a YouTube Shorts video, your biceps still won't grow if you don't understand the mechanics behind building muscle. Today I'm going to teach you these mechanics so that you're able to think for yourself when you're training, so that you can avoid wasting your time by trying a bunch of different exercises that you saw online. Every muscle has its own function. Some muscles have multiple functions, but the basic principle is that every muscle on your skeleton moves a joint. Your biceps bend your elbow, your quads extend your knees, and your pecs move your shoulder. When you're building your workout split, you don't need 3 of the best exercises to hit your biceps. You also don't need both a bench press and a chest fly in order to hit your upper chest. You just need an exercise that trains the muscle you're trying to hit by performing its primary function. If you want to build your biceps, and all your biceps do is bend your elbow, all you need to train your biceps is an exercise that bends your elbow. Now, after you've chosen your exercise for the muscle that you want to hit, you need to create tension inside that muscle so that the muscle can adapt and grow to the stimulus. It may seem self-explanatory and that all you need to do is hold a dumbbell, but the resistance also needs to oppose the direction that you're moving. If you put a bicep exercise and a tricep exercise side by side, at first glance your arm is still moving in the same direction. You're still bending your elbow back and forth. But during a bicep exercise, you're curling your arm upwards and gravity is pulling the weight downward. Versus during a cable exercise, the cable is pulling upwards and your triceps are pushing downward. It is a simple concept, but it's very crucial for muscle growth. Even if you're doing the correct movement for the muscle that you're trying to build, you need to apply force in the right direction in order to create tension in that muscle. After you've been training for some time, your muscles will have adapted to the force that you've been applying to them, and there will be no need for them to adapt further, which means there is no need for them to grow. So in order to perpetuate this adaptation and ensure that your muscles keep growing, you need to increase the amount of weight that you're using or increase the amount of reps. The most important thing is that you increase either one of these 2 things over time. But if you want to precisely calculate when you're supposed to increase your reps or your weights, you need to have recorded your reps, your weights, and your sets. This is so that you can see what you did during your previous workout and to know if you should increase any of these variables further. There are a few different methods for progressive overload which you can find online, but I've broken down a very simple yet effective way to know exactly when you should be increasing your weights, your reps, or your sets inside my muscle growth guide, which you can find in the description below. Another crucial aspect of muscle growth is your training intensity. Your brain will decide how much tension is created in your muscles by firing up X amount of muscle fibers. But it will only fire up as much muscle fibers as it needs based on your training intensity. If you're not training hard or you're not using heavy enough weights, your brain won't need to create as much tension. As you're going through your set on whatever exercise it is that you're doing, your brain will need to fire up more and more muscle fibers and create more tension in order to keep the weights moving. As you reach failure, you'll have stimulated near maximal muscle fibers and will have a much better growth stimulus from that set than if you had stopped your set further away from failure. This is exactly why you'll hear people preaching online about training with high intensity and training close to failure. Now, your brain can only fire up so many muscle fibers for a certain amount of time before you start to feel fatigued. If you've trained for at least a few months, you'll have noticed that an exercise like a barbell back squat will leave you feeling much more tired than an exercise such as a bicep curl. Even if you train your biceps extremely hard, you still won't feel as tired as you would after a heavy back squat. So to reduce fatigue and increase muscle growth, you'll need full neural drive towards the muscle that you're actually trying to build to create as much tension in the targeted muscle for better growth. This is why choosing stable exercises that remove involvement from other non-targeted muscles will allow for full neural drive to the muscle that you're actually trying to build. If you've watched a Jeff Nippert video, you'll know that he's talked about muscles growing better when they're in their stretch. And there is also a lot of research you can find online that backs up this claim. While I don't think it's a good idea to put all your eggs in one basket and only train muscles when they're in their lengthened position, we can use that data to our advantage and increase muscle growth during our exercises. Every exercise you do has a point during the exercise where the exercise feels hardest and where the exercise feels easiest. For example, if you've done a barbell back squat before, you'll notice that the bottom part of the back squat is very difficult and the top part is very easy. You can increase muscle growth by choosing exercises where the muscle that you're trying to build is most difficult when that muscle is in its mid to lengthened position. I've broken down the physics behind this and explained how to manipulate any exercise to create the most amount of tension in every major muscle when it's most susceptible to growth, which you can find inside my muscle growth guide down below. If you're tired and confused by the polarizing fitness advice you see online and just want to know the basic psychology behind fat loss and muscle growth, then subscribe for more content just like this.